So we are gonna go through the second release for the 2017 vintage wines for Torrin. So we're gonna do the Shawl. We'll do Sundari, and we're gonna do Akasha. So, earlier on, last shutdown. We're shut down again, by the way, so here we are. And earlier in the year, David was so good at getting us to sit down and run through these wines and give you guys some notes and just thoughts on the wines during the first shutdown of our, with our first release. Now here we are kind of on the tail end of the second release, kind of near the holiday season, and we're gonna sit down and do it again. So we actually had a fun time doing it. I actually really enjoyed it. So Viquel's comic relief, and
I drink too much towards the end.
Yeah. And David always did the editing, made us look good. So we decided to do it again. So we hope that you have either has everybody received?
Pretty much everybody should have received their fall shipments by now. So we're gonna kind of go through them for you, and hopefully you'll open them up this holiday season with your loved ones near. And
Kind of the nice thing about the 17 vintage is for those of you that are receiving wines now and kind of digging through the cellar, deciding what to drink, 17s are super approachable. They're really fun wines, plenty of complexity and depth and character and all the wonderful things you'd expect, but really a little more approachable than some of our previous vintages. So for those of you looking to dive into a bottle over the holidays, probably a good vintage to do it. So, so I just poured the 2017 Shawl. New wine to the lineup, and pretty excited. So Grenache-based wine with Graciano kicker. So the Graciano is definitely the wild card in the wine, and sort of in the house, I guess. When you look at Graciano and the history behind it, at least here in Paso or in California, the idea that everybody who planted it initially, well, 90% of the people, I suppose, maybe more, assumed that it was actually a Spanish clone of Mourvedre. So it was, Monastrell, they thought, going in, and it turns out that it was still Spanish, but Graciano. Characteristically, it's really a different grape. It's fantastic acidity, beautiful color, great texture and weight, volume, but it really does, I think, for us anyway, the signature piece of it, what it contributes to the blend overall is a little bit blacker fruit profile than the red fruit of the Grenache, and acidity.
It smells wonderful.
Really nice. It's fun. One thing I noticed about the 17 vintage, just across the board, I thought was kind of cool. I really noticed it in the Banshee with our spring release, but now coming back into the Shawl, is it's got that really herbal-driven secondary kind of note, which is really, really cool. So you've got this fruit profile that you would expect, the red fruits that you're getting from the Grenache, but like when you try Gigondas or Chateauneuf or something, you always get this kind of dried herb, lavender, sage kind of characteristic, and I see that in these 17s, which is really fun. I love that characteristic in this wine. The Shawl, the reason we even decided to do this was, one, we needed a home for the Gracianos. We wanted to know that year in and year out, we were going to have a place to put this. Because a lot of people, when they found out that it wasn't what they thought it was, they kind of, it's a dilemma, right? Do you leave it in the ground and find a home for it, or do you take it out or graft it and replace it with, what you initially had desired in there? For us, we really, really enjoyed the wine, so we weren't going to, abandon it. So we decided that we're going to continue to use the fruit, but we needed a consistent place to put it. And, what we do is just based on flavor, just how it goes, but generally it works out that our highest pH Grenache ends up blending with the Graciano, because that really low pH or the acidic Graciano kind of puts it in balance. And for those of you that have been involved with Torrin for a long period of time, or just kind of getting to know us over the last couple of releases, one thing that we really strive for is this textural presence in the wine. And it's not necessarily based on chemistry, just coincidentally it sort of lines up that way, but really it's about front to back presence. We really want to make sure that there aren't any holes in the wine, and I think the Graciano piece of this really contributes to that. So
that's a great one. And we opened this an hour ago, thereabouts, Right? It's tasting great. So, I mean, on this wine, you know, our wines definitely age for a long time. If you're just getting your shipments, I would say at least wait a week, you know, just to let it settle in the shipping process. So if you already have it, you know, these are kind of, you can definitely open them. But I would like let it sit for an hour, you know, or so.
Yep.
Before you start drinking it.
Yeah, so it's definitely a pop and pour candidate. It's also a decant candidate. You know, we've taken bottles of this, we open it up, and we visit just to check in on it, see how it's doing. And literally at, you know, cellar temperature for 4 or 5 days, the wine's fantastic. It's just really neat how it opens up over time. You start to see more of those spicier, you know, herbal notes come through. But again, I think this is something you can definitely enjoy over the holidays. And
cheers.
All right, cheers. All right.
That's actually really good.
You always sound so surprised.
No, but I think for as young as it is, like I'm really surprised at how well it's showing right now.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's gonna get better. I mean, I think it'll. But
Man, these 17s.
yeah.
You know, it's kind of fun. Like initially, you know, going, wow, these are super approachable, kind of caught me off guard. And I didn't really expect them to be that approachable.
Yeah. But it's not. And not taking away from their ageability, though.
No, not at all.
Yeah.
Yeah, the wines are going to age fantastic. It's like 2010. But it's a polar opposite
completely
vintage,
different
right?
vintage, yeah.
Really warm vintage. But I remember in 2010s when we first started doing the blends, we came together. I was like,
that's really good, too.
yeah, they're like good right now, man. Oh, for
No,
this?
yeah. No, I meant this,
Yeah.
right?
Okay. So you don't know, it's my great figure. Wow. Okay, that's fun. Okay, 2017 Akasha. So, again, those of you familiar with Torrin, Akasha has probably been the wine that's kind of caught most people's attention, I would say. Would you agree, kind of over the years?
Absolutely.
You know, the critics have been kind and just people spreading the word. You know, it's been really, really generous from people who go home and share the wines with other people. And it's probably the one that's garnered the most attention thus far. But it's kind of fun to see the other wines catching up, which is kind of interesting. But Akasha, you know, from the beginning was kind of the wine that got us here. With Akasha, it's kind of interesting. So this actually is a blend of fruit from what you're looking at kind of behind us here. This is Willow Creek, the sub-AVA within the west side of Paso. But we've also got a little bit of Santa Barbara County fruit from Bienesito Vineyard in here.
Right.
And, right, so again, you know, with the mindset that we're going to make the best wine we can, the initial goal was that it would all come from right here in our own backyard. In looking at fruit for the lagom was at Bienesito, and they offered us a little block of Syrah from one of their really storied, you know, older blocks on the property. It's a Z block, and so we figured, great, it'll be kind of fun. I'll play with it. We'll probably do a little wine for the Vicinage series and call it good, and just have some fun with it from a little different area. And again, not necessarily holding ourselves to any boundaries. We decided, man, let's see what it does in Akasha. And it has such a fantastic aromatic presence. And just from the way we like to make wine, again, texture-wise. So it did amazing things in the blend with the fact that it's definitely got that olive tapenade kind of characteristic to it, sort of that more northern Rhone-ish kind of peppery notes and things. But it was lean. You know, texturally, it was leaner of a wine than what we're getting from our backyard here. So, you know, you've got all the weight and texture and things that you'd expect from the Akasha, but you've got some of those smokier, savory, olivey, briny kind of characteristics that we get from the Santa Barbara County fruit right out the gate, which is kind of fun, you know, in an early vintage. And it doesn't mean that we're going to do this forever. It just means that on a per vintage basis, I like that particular vintage in the blend, and so it's going to make it.
There is an amazing quality on the finish of this wine that is really good. It's got a savory note, but it's fruit at the same time. It's wonderful. Yeah.
I'm a sucker for the texture of it, honestly. I mean, the palate presence of Akasha from vintage to vintage is fantastic, because it's one of the really cool things about Syrah. We've talked about it in the past, where you can plant the same grape in all these different areas, really warm regions, really cool regions, and each one is going to give a pretty fantastic expression of it, but they're going to be different. What we're very fortunate to have in our neck of the woods is I think we have this remarkable balance between some of the textural advantages you would get from a warmer climate and some of the aromatic and flavor profile presence that you would get from a cooler climate. and you get to put it together, and it's like it's seamless. There's really no,
It's a little bit of magic.
Yeah, there's no compromise, right? I mean, you compromise on everything it seems, but but here, what we get, we always talk about being the coolest area in a warm region, and this morning all the fog's rolling over the hills.
It's not there anymore, but there was fog all over. Yeah,
sort of what's left, and we get that. We actually get all those amazing aromatic characters, but also it buys us hang time.
Yeah.
Right, and then because we've got this crazy high pH soil, we're able to get all these really amazing, intense, ripe characteristics in the fruit, but we've got this beautiful acidity and precision and clarity to the wine where it keeps it from being heavy-handed or cumbersome.
Right. So on this wine, which everybody has in their, or should be getting as well if they ordered through their membership or allocation, we opened this and probably, like we said, like an hour or so ago.
Yeah.
What would you recommend? Like,
I think it needs a little more time.
I think it needs more time.
Yeah.
Like I would say,
Versus
maybe,
essential.
Decant it for 6 hours or, something
or open
like
it
that.
a day ahead of time.
Or a day ahead of time.
Yeah.
I think it needs more time than Seneschal.
Yeah.
Yeah. And this is going to age beautifully, but you are not going to be disappointed if you open it right now. It will just, give it a little bit of breathing time.
Yeah, definitely.
For sure.
And that's one thing that people talk about, ageability of wines, and one thing we're finding now that we've gotten enough vintages under our belt is that it's really an interesting balance between trying to find when your sweet spot is as a consumer, right? When you personally enjoy to drink wines. Some people really enjoy drinking young wines, and some people really enjoy drinking more mature wines. And so you got to really kind of figure out what style you like personally. What Paso, if you're looking at our neighbors, if you're looking at our wines, what it gives is the opportunity to enjoy a young wine that's still drinkable. Like, it's not old Bordeaux. It's not, Bordeaux from the past where you need, 10 or 20 years before you even think about it. These wines are beautiful in the first 5 years, but I just give them a little air.
Yeah.
And enjoy them for the fruit and for the texture and the weight and all this stuff. And if you're the type that has the opportunity to cellar wines for 5, 6, 7, 10 years, you're really going to be rewarded by all those characteristics that open and how graceful and balanced and soft and beautiful the wines get. But you're not necessarily handcuffed to have to choose to do one or the other.
No.
You can kind of enjoy the wines along the way. So it's really about the evolution of wine. It's not about enjoying a wine necessarily at one time. The only time you ever try that wine is that snapshot on that day. It's the idea of seeing a wine evolve. So
it's like marriage.
That's right. Gets better with age.
It gets better with it.
Yeah.
Well, most of the time.
Edit that up.
Yeah.
No, so, but it's not. It's when I used to buy wine, I would go. Let's say I went to L'Aventure or whatever, and I would buy one of each of the bottles because they're all fantastic, right? But as I kind of got into buying more wine and trying to understand wine, I would make sure that I bought multiple bottles of any. I never bought just one bottle of anything, right? Because that's fantastic being able to see it at that point in time. But I want to see what happens to it. I tried it today. I want to see what happens to it after a couple years.
So we forget a bottle or bottles. We'll just forget about them.
Yeah.
We pull out what we want to drink now, and then
And seeing it evolve, that's part of the magic, I think, of wine is really interesting because a lot of other products you try it when it's good, and then it kind of falls apart after that, and you never really get to see it change. And we try to do our best to go through and try wines and share some information with you guys who are sitting on wines, who are cellaring wines that are looking to try to hit that sweet spot. We know personally that we've gone through every wine of every vintage we've made, and we have yet to find a wine that we consider over the hill or tired.
Right.
And that goes back to 2006. But it's inevitable, right? Every wine kind of reaches a peak, and I'm guessing that maybe the 2006s, they're gonna hit that at some point. We're gonna find that spot. So, but I think with confidence from any consumer, when you're purchasing any of our wines from any vintage, you can definitely know that within the first couple of years you can enjoy the wines and they're going to be great. If you happen to hold on to them for 7 to 10 years, you're in good shape there as well. So, this is
our representation of Paso a little bit.
Yeah, and
like what it can do.
Yeah, the potential, right?
Right.
This
different varietals.
Yeah, really kind of a neat blend. So this is the only wine that has Bordeaux varieties in it, which is kind of cool. So. Obviously, Cab Shiraz blends from Australia, using Cabernet and Syrah over we're not obviously the first ones to do that.
No.
Plenty of people have done that. But we kind of took a little different direction initially with Tannat and Grenache, right? Not too many people were blending Cabernet and Grenache, and then the Tannat kicker and all that kind of stuff.
Wait, let's backtrack. So in 2017, the Sundari is consisted of what? 38% Syrah, 35 Cab, 15 Petit Verdot, and 12% Tannat.
Yeah.
So that's
we,
what we're talking about.
This vintage, we kicked the Grenache out
Right.
a little bit. We kept the Tannat in. Petit Verdot is really the amazing addition to this
Right.
thing.
Yeah.
It does so unbelievably well here. You know, in a lot of other areas, you see it in blends at like 2% or, you know, whatever.
Yeah.
Here it gets really ripe and lush and beautiful, and it loves
You
these
should
soils.
stop talking so much and maybe drink
I know.
and try the wine.
All right, that I can do. But man, I'm on a roll. I'm so excited about this.
But this is really good in the glass. Like I always call this our holiday wine because it's always evolving and
Wow.
it tastes delicious in the mouth,
Yeah.
and it's going to keep changing in the glass over
Yeah.
time.
If any of the wines from the 17 vintage that we're going to open right now with the holidays, it's probably this one.
Right.
We'll drink some of the Grenache-based wines. I think would be really enjoyable. But if you're going to watch something evolve over the course of a meal or the course of a tasting or
Like
whatever,
start it while you're cooking,
Yeah.
and then open another bottle because you don't want to drink it all at once.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
and then keep drinking it. Yeah.
Absolutely, it's amazing because there's all these different components. We talk about all this stuff, and you know the Petit Verdot piece of it, and the Tannat. It gives it all these remarkable layers of stuff that just continue to unfold, and so there's so much going
There's
on there.
so much going on.
Yeah, it's really wild, and just depending on vintage, but it's really remarkable what this thing does with a couple years on it, and like I said, like you mentioned, you know, over time in a glass, but yeah, kind of fun.
Really good. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's interesting. You know, we get a lot of people that one thing that Paso has seen is a lot of the people that have traditionally gone to Napa for most of their wine buying has been Cabernet based, and so they come to Paso and they're experiencing different varietals and they're pleasantly surprised, but still something in there. You know, they kind of want to go back, like, hey, where's your Cab? And you know, while we personally don't focus on Cabernet or Bordeaux varieties as a priority or whatever, but
Right.
it's amazing what it does in a blend. You know, and so for someone that wants that connection, you get it. You understand there's the herbal undertones, the things that go
Right.
with Cabernet. But man, when you put the Syrah piece of it in and you put the soil profile, all that stuff, it really does give it a Paso Robles signature. And you mentioned earlier, you said it was almost like a showcase of what Paso can do without having to kind of adhere to a varietal or an
Right.
expectation. It's sort of out of the box, which is
Yeah.
kind of cool. But yeah, I noticed you really, you know, as we bring this thing home, this is a wine that you have migrated to, and you can admit it in front of camera. You like the Cab.
I do like the Cab. I
Yeah.
always like the Cab. Maybe not 100% Cab. I mean, I do like some Cabs, but I do like it. I like the flavor profile and even the nose that it provides. So I do like it. Yeah.
When you say herbal, like in the other wine, we were talking about herbs, like dried herbs.
Yeah,
This
that
is
was
almost
more.
like
Right.
herbaceous, right? Like
Yeah.
Cab has this herbaceous undertone, and it's amazing. It's really cool what it does when it's not too far.
Yeah.
But it has that Cabernet distinctive characteristic. But it's not Napa Floor, you know, Rutherford Bench or
It's
Oakville.
different, yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't have that that kind of mocha chocolate kind of undertone
Right.
as much. So you're getting some of those greener notes, and you put it in with the Syrah and the Petit Verdot, which has that beautiful violet characteristic. And then the Tannat, which gives a little bit more backbone. And so
Yeah.
Sundari, it's a Japanese word that means it's a character in theater or anime or in all these
Yeah.
different environments that starts out really gruff and abrasive and unapproachable, and throughout the course of the play or the movie or whatever it is, ends up being much more warm and welcoming
Approachable,
and approachable.
yeah.
Yeah. And so dere, the second root in it actually means lovey-dovey, you know, so it really kind of migrates that direction. And so we named this assuming with Cab, Petit Verdot, and the tannin structure and all that stuff, that it might need a few years to come
Right.
around. What we're pleasantly surprised is what that
Does in your glass.
Yeah, you get to experience that
Yeah.
over a couple of hours, which is really kind of cool. So
Yeah. So we recommend opening it up, you know, definitely give it a little bit of a decant, but just let it evolve in your glass, you know, over the evening. Or daytime, like we are right now.
it is
What time is
just
it?
afternoon. It's
Yeah.
afternoon.
I haven't had lunch yet.
Yeah. So, but this is a fun wine, and we're really proud of this wine. We have a good time with it, and this is one that feel free to open in the next couple of years and enjoy it in a glass, or stick a couple bottles in the cellar and come back in 10. It's going to be fantastic either way.
Cheers.
Okay.